Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Charlotte. Are you honest with us today?
I might pop off down below.
All right, there you go. Hi, good morning, Mark. How are you?
Good morning, Tara. I'm excellent. Thanks for including us here.
Yeah, great. Welcome to Ready Row USA's episode 27. Woohoo! For our exciting 27th episode of Ready Row USA, correspondents Mark Wilson, Ryan Worth, and Allison Pellini recall the sweat, tears, and sweet smell of victory and the agony of defeat. From Masters Nationals in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and looking ahead to 2020. And Ryan, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. How's everybody doing?
Good. So we're just doing our intro, and we're continuing to bring these regular broadcasts featuring the best of rowing news, gadgets, and gear from rowers, clubs, coaches, and vendors across the country. Ready Row USA is part of the International Rowing Chat Network. We'd love you to subscribe at rowing.chat to receive notifications of upcoming shows, send in your news tips, and join our community on this website and on our YouTube channel. The producer of Ready Row USA is Charlotte Pierce. Our associate producer and frequent host is myself, Tara Morgan from Seattle and Vashon. Our senior correspondent and occasional host is Mark Wilson. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me.
And our correspondents include Ryan Worth. Good morning, Ryan Worth from UT Chattanooga.
Good morning.
And we're going to be bringing in a little snippet of a new correspondent, Allison Pellini of Carnegie Lake. Our executive producer is Rebecca Carreau of rowing.chat. So I'm going to jump right in to thank our sponsors before we get started and wrap up this Masters Nationals event that you guys just went to. First of all, we're going to talk about Faster Masters training program. This program is a new subscription coaching service for masters, which is kind of cool. Marlene Royal, who a lot of people know, has been coaching older athletes for decades. She gets the needs of masters, and she's created an online monthly downloadable training plan available for you or your whole crew or your club. And it's the big new fun solution for a faster masters program this year. So click on the program's link at fastermastersrowing.com. Next up, we're going to talk about is Oar Inspired. So these guys have developed a brilliant design that's a tripod that goes on the stern deck or the bow deck of your boat and with a suction cup and makes your GoPro or your camera or whatever you're using way more efficient and better for your boat, I would imagine. So read more about that on rowing.chat. And lastly, Mark, you want to do this one?
Love to do this one, Tara. Thanks. Rose and Thorn Active Bras. Everybody needs one.
Awesome.
Buy one. You get a 10% discount with the coupon code ROW10, and you can visit them at roseandthorn.com.
Awesome. Thanks, Mark. So, okay, Masters Nationals. Mark, in a nutshell, what's up with Masters Nationals that just happened this weekend in Grand Rapids, Michigan? How did it go?
Grand Rapids, Michigan put on a show for everybody. That was a great Masters Nationals. They did a wonderful job. And mark my words, which is showing up on your screen if you happen to be watching this on YouTube, you can only win a medal if you show up.
What do you mean by that, Mark?
Well, I just happen to have been up there as a volunteer, kind of, boat driver, trailer driver, kind of, and somebody in the team couldn't make it. Their plane got delayed, canceled flight, couldn't make it in. So at 9:30 on a Friday night, on 9:30 on a Saturday night, somebody called me up and said, "Hey, can you race with my team on Sunday morning at 8:06?" And I'm like, "Sure, happy to." And there you go. We won a silver medal in the men's D4.
What?
Yeah. It was awesome. So really happy to help out. But the whole thing is you gotta be there. The other thing that I mentioned, a lot of people were coming by just visiting, watching the great racing that was going on and seeing the show that Grand Rapids put on for everybody. And I'm like, "Why aren't you racing?" And they're like, "Well, not sure if we're really ready." And I said, "You're ready." And that's the whole thing. You may not win a medal the first time you show up at a Masters Nationals, but just going in for the experience, going in for the fun, going in getting those juices revved up at the starting line. Everybody should do it. And if you're close to a Masters Nationals or a big regatta like that, just go, be part of it, pay the entry fee and enjoy yourself. And maybe next time you win, or maybe you surprise yourself and do better than you think. So
That's awesome. That's a great tip. So Ryan, I'm going to have you give me your top impression of the event, and then have you intro Allison Pellini's contribution to the show. So let's hear it from Ryan. How was your Masters Nationals?
Sure. So Allison and myself were both there as well in 2014, and it was a great event that year too. I got to say, sometimes, Mark, a broken clock is right twice a day.
That's true.
I was in a boat, the only boat that I practiced with my crew very well going into it. We were the last boat. This is our takeaway from this week. We were the last boat to get a bow number before all the events were canceled for the weather on Sunday. So that was a bummer. That's certainly something everyone's going to talk about. We had some thunderstorms rolling in. Referees definitely made the right call there on the LOC. There were 50-mile-an-hour winds just to the north of the venue that came through. Unfortunately for all of us that were there loading our trailers around noon, we saw a drizzle, and the weather really didn't get that bad. It is always tough to pull off a venue when your races are supposed to be running and the water's flat, but it is what it is. That's rowing. And like Mark said, you can't win a medal if you're not there. And if you're not there, it doesn't matter anyway. But big takeaways, outside of the weather cancellations, the event was awesome. They've got a beautiful spot there in the park, so you're always in the shade. It does make it easy for a lot of the people who like to race a lot of different events, or you're getting out multiple times. I know multiple people that were rowing 6-7 1Ks to get through heats, and then their finals, and racing a lot of different events and doing that day after day.
Great. So how about cue up our person? Who is Allison Pellini?
So Allison Pellini and I have known each other for a long time. She used to be a club coach, and she's been a rower up at Carnegie Lake for about 10 years now. And just in the last couple of years has transitioned into rowing only. And career-wise, she went out of rowing into police work. So she's in law enforcement now.
Great.
A wonderful rowing background. And we've got a quick clip from her, just her take on the regatta.
All right, let's hear it.
Am I sharing that?
Charlotte's going to share it.
Okay.
Yeah, we're excited to meet Allison in person at the U.S. Rowing Conference in December. Here we go.
Yeah.
It must have been fun to see all your old buddies there, too.
Absolutely. Oh, volume down. Allison was one of those rowers who had a lot of different events. I think she was in 9 different events.
Wow.
And her and the 14 ladies from her club, they all medaled in something.
Mm-hmm.
So, a highly competitive crew. And they were one of these groups of ladies, or one of these clubs, who said, open or composite, we don't care. We're just going to race.
For the most part, it's
they went out.
low 80s.
And how did you find the overall atmosphere of the regatta in Grand Rapids?
Oh, we love it. And I actually remember when I was still working for U.S. Rowing, this was one of the events that I really loved. I just loved, the venue was just really nice. The weather is pretty much predictable, minus Sunday, which is a little bit of a crazy event. But for the most part, it's low 80s. I remember 5 years ago, it was actually got down really cold into the low 40s in the morning.
Yeah.
But the atmosphere was awesome. The weather was great. The venue is beautiful. The water was perfect. The current very much helped a lot of my events. I was very thankful for current. It made everything about 20 seconds faster, and I'm okay with that. So, yeah, I think overall all of us loved this 5 years ago, and those of us who were new this year also loved it very much.
Great. Thanks for getting that clip from Allison. That's pretty awesome. She is, so you said she's a rower and she has a coaching background. So she gets to see these events from both sides, and both of you guys get to see it from both sides. So I wanted to break down a little bit of like, how was the entries and people's pace and the amenities? Was there any cool amenities at the venue?
So I'll take a stab at that, Tara. The venue, I thought, again, I thought, and I talked with an awful lot of people there on site, and everybody's really very positive on the site. I think the other thing that was really good, where the venue was very accessible to lots of parking, and the venue also allowed a very easy access to the vendors.
Right.
You can see, if you're watching this on YouTube, or if you watch it later, perhaps you'll see a vendor kind of corral or area, which was very open and easily accessible, and right in the middle of the action. The other nice thing was the launch dock was at the 500-meter point. So as you're coming down to the dock, you're right in the middle of the course. There was a recovery dock and a launch dock, which were very, basically at the same place. But it was really nice to be able to be at the 500. So you had plenty of warm up above the starting line, and then plenty of cool down area after the finish line, which was also very nice. And that's sometimes a limiting factor at some venues. So the rowers who were racing multiple times found it to be an easy on-off situation. The U.S. rowing officials, the starting line people, did a great job of keeping on schedule, which was really pretty amazing with that number of athletes and 3-minute centers. As you're watching the big jumbotron, you are often seeing commentary or listening to commentary and watching racing going by at the 700-meter mark, 750 down mark, and then you could look up the course and already see races coming. They've already started. So the action was really nonstop. I talked with several people that were non-rowers, that were just community members from Grand Rapids, and they were like, wow. They were like really impressed with the action that was going on. And so that was really good. I think everybody did a great job. And one final thing where all the boat builders that were there really helped people out a great deal. And I think it's guys like that, the boat builders, Ryan works for Swift, and Filippi and Vespoli and Hudson and Fluid Design. They were all there just doing a great job of helping people in case of emergencies or whatever. So, you have to give kudos to those guys that bring in boats. Filippi, for example, brought in a whole trailer load of boats. They were planning on just bringing a truck top, a rack full of some small boats. They got called at the last minute by U.S. Rowing and said, hey, we need some more boats here. We got more people that need equipment. And they brought a full trailer with 8s and 4s and quads, as well as small boats. So it's that part of the community that often gets a little under recognized. And I just wanted to shout to all those guys, from Ryan right on up to Alex and Fabio, and obviously the boys at Vespoli and Hudson, and Gord was there from Fluid along with his son Sam, and they're all just so happy to be there and help people out. So I think that's awesome.
Great. So Ryan, I'd love to chat with you about your experience as well, because I know that one of the things they changed this year was they lifted the entries cap. Typically at Masters Regionals, for instance, any one rower can only enter, I think, 5 events. Was that the case here at Masters Nationals?
Yeah, it had been in the past. Even as a 3 and then 4 day regatta, they had always limited it to about 6 events for a rower, and that changed kind of over time as you see things work and not. This year, U.S. Rowing made the decision to just lift the cap completely. And so, like I said, there were rowers with 9, 10, 11 different event entries, and some tight hot seats. I'm guilty of that myself. It would have been a 32-minute, but then I was debating, do we go on to the final, which ended up being a point being the Sunday finals. But then I talked to another guy who had a 22-minute turnaround between events. And so you get into that, and that's a point where, as the organizing body, they're probably saying we need to trust people to be reasonable.
That's funny. Masters are not known for being reasonable.
Exactly, right? We know that we can't be trusted. So, I think there's some questions to be answered there. And any process like that is going to get a little glitchy. There were entry caps at 16 per event, so that you could progress straight from heats into finals, just taking that top 2 from each. So it's a 6-lane course. So that's the that's the most you could allow, and still have 1 heat and then a final. But they had a waitlist system, and there were a couple instances where some people got accepted, and then it was an oops that made 19, and so there ended up being some semifinals as well. But those are glitches to raising the cap. I think as a 4-day race, the cap is really tough. You might have people who are there for 2 days of practice, and they're in it to, they're really in it for the entire length of the event. Whereas you have other people who are going to fly in for just the 2 days of racing they can make.
Right.
And if you cap the number of entries, then you're really hamstringing some of those folks who would love a lot more racing.
That's true. I mean, I think when your coaches put in those regatta entries, we know as coaches, when we put in those regatta entries, like, we're concerned with, things like hot seating. We don't really think about the physical expenditure of these athletes, the back to back 1Ks. We don't think about them having to lay on the ground to recover, encouraging our athletes to bring recovery items with them to these regattas, whether it's the foam roller or the tennis ball or the lacrosse ball, and I love, when speaking back to what Mark was talking about with vendors, out here at Masters Regionals Northwest, we have a chiropractor that comes and does free 15-minute, and sometimes there's massage therapists. I think having those kinds of people on site, of course, my recommendations to rowers for regattas is never try anything new. Don't try the goo that weekend. Don't eat the seafood. Don't try the local fare. Don't eat the snow cone. Don't do anything new. But I love when people can do all of those events and walk away and feel really successful. Did you see a lot of that happening?
Yeah, definitely. They had medical on site for emergencies, but they didn't have the massage therapist. Wes can bring next time.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Some of the other things that they had on site were, the very famous beer tent. So the beer tent was certainly utilized by many folks, usually after racing, but I did see a few midday going in there and grabbing a little carbo for their replenishment or refueling. So, if that's what you do after racing, is you have a beer, it's probably not a bad thing to continue to do, especially there. So your comments, Tara, about do what you do is important to continue to do what you do. So, and masters do tend to have a beer or two after racing, so it's okay.
Yeah, I think that people just generally don't travel well. And then when they're sleeping in unfamiliar beds and they're, having to deal with teammate dynamics and, coach dynamics and all of that, it can be challenging. So it's good to see athletes that are really reasonable, because on paper, doing 5 events looks totally doable. You could do a 5x1K on the erg, but when you add all the hours and the expenditure and the heat and the excitement and the adrenaline, you're really, it's really challenging for people. Would you say that this event would be good for someone who's raced or rode less than 2 years?
I would say absolutely. I think, again, if you can go, if the schedule allows, if your work schedule allows, and even if you just take in a couple of events, I know the group from Narragansett Boat Club out of Providence, they flew in on Friday night. They raced on Saturday and Sunday, and they left with a couple of gold medals, and it's that's awesome. They weren't there from Wednesday all the way through Sunday. They knew their limitations from a schedule standpoint and from their the rowing standpoint, and they were smart about it, and they're super, super pumped because they kind of managed their time and expectations, and they raced in a couple of events, not 5 or 6, so they didn't overdo their schedule, and that's awesome. And I think a lot of people are like that. The gentleman that I raced with from Atlanta, 2 of them had only been rowing for 2 years, and a couple of the others had only been rowing for less than 5 years, and they did great, and they were in a pretty competitive event with that D men's 4. So I think it's you need to go if you want to be a competitive rower, and you think you want to be a competitive rower, you have to compete. It's just that simple. So
absolutely.
Well, we'd love to see people's photos, and so send us your pics if you want to share your favorite photos. I've seen some pretty hilarious videos and things. So Ryan, do you know where this is happening next year?
Oh, it's heading to Oakland next year, going West Coast.
Ah, left coast, best coast.
And it looks like a cool venue out there. It's one of those lakes that's not quite big enough for a 2K course or a head race. So Masters Racing is the only opportunity for it. There's a good one in Georgia as well, like that, a pond in Augusta, Georgia. But Oakland looks like it'll be a nice spot.
And I think it's called Lake Merritt, right? And it was there last year, I believe.
Yeah, I heard a rumor that there might be already an arrangement for that to just go back and forth for a little while. But again, that was unsubstantiated.
Great. I was a part of that because being here on the West Coast, a lot of my team at the time went to that event, and it's an urban lake, right? So it's not out, kind of in the country. And so you're kind of in the heart of Oakland in an urban lake. Here in Seattle, we hosted Masters Nationals probably 20 years ago at an urban lake called Green Lake. And then, of course, Ryan and I have the Oak Ridge connection, and Masters Nationals, was there on that beautiful course a few years ago. But it sounds like, various venues are having some challenges with both the capacity. Like Grand Rapids stood to make almost $2 million as a city off of this event. And I think that's really attractive to folks like that. In Oak Ridge, I don't think they can, they have that capacity, but I think it's not quite the same as being in a bigger area like Grand Rapids.
Beer City, USA.
Yeah.
I've got to say, Grand Rapids did about, short of World Rowing events, they did the best job I've seen with the AV on site. TA systems were all over the place, so you could almost always hear the announcements, and really big TVs to watch live stream when you were there on site as well.
Oh, that's really cool.
And to carry on with that, they did a really good job with the drone video, and it wasn't just racing. They did the venue as well and the starting line area. So if you have a chance and you didn't get to see it, that's obviously up on US Rowing's YouTube channel, and you can check out some of that video. And it really was quite good. The other thing I wanted to comment on about the venue and the referees is that they did do the static refereeing, which was fantastic. So they basically chased out of the starting line for about 100 meters, maybe 200 meters tops.
Right.
And that was with a wakeless launch. And then they pulled them back. And then the referees were stationed every 250. They were there in case something went wrong, but they didn't interfere with the water quality and the racing quality for everybody. So that was really nice to see. And I didn't see, Ryan maybe was on the water more than I was, but I didn't see any issues with anybody, collisions or anything. It would have made it an unfair situation. There were probably a few more things in the warm-up area where people were getting a little close, but it was great to see the static refereeing really work. And I think that US Rowing, personally, I'm speaking as Mark Wilson here, but I really think that would be great if they continue to promote the static refereeing in many other events. So I think that was a great success for that.
And I just got to say, as a referee, the static refereeing is going to get better as people get a chance to practice it. Just like rowing, you got to go practice it. And I'm sure as a referee, getting out of the mindset of chasing the full race, there's a big shift there. But I agree with Mark. I think that it was really successful in that there in Grand Rapids.
So we need to start wrapping up. This has been a great episode. We wanted to give a shout out to our episode hashtag winner from July, who won a consult with Mark at All American Rowing Camp, and that was Nancy Mack of Northampton Community Rowing on the mighty Connecticut River in Massachusetts. She used our end of July hashtag RRUSA Go Global on the Masters International Rowing Group on Facebook. So she gave us a shout out, and she took her rowing training or coaching training recently and accepted a position at Pioneer Valley Rowing Club. So she's excited to get her consult. So thanks for subscribing. Mark, I know you wanted to circle back about our global rowing.
Yes, thank you so much, Tara, for reminding me. This is a great little segue. We did a story a few weeks ago about how to reach out when you want to go travel the world, right? When you average rower wants to go to Italy or wants to go to Spain or whatever, how do you get to interact with a club? Well, we had a great situation where Martin Sinkovich of the famous Sinkovich brothers, many-time world champion in the double and the pair, he is a Green Bay Packer fan, And he reached out to La Bay Verte Rowing Club in Green Bay, Wisconsin, because he wants to go see a Green Bay Packer game after the World Championships in Tokyo. So they're going from Tokyo home to Croatia via Green Bay, Wisconsin. And somebody was smart enough. They thought it was a spam at first. I talked to the folks there. They thought it was a spam at first, but they realized that it was actually Martin Sinkovich emailing their club wanting to row with them and get to see them and go to a Green Bay game. So Martin Sinkovich is going to be seeing 2 Green Bay Packer games, September 22nd and September 26th in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and rowing with the club and doing photo ops and obviously stuff like that too, which is great. So you have to be on the receiving end. You know, you have to have somebody on your website, on your contact page that actually reads emails, because you never know who might be showing up or want to show up at your club. And I think that's just so awesome. And it was just so timely that we were just talking about this. And then I find out that Martin Sinkovich is going to show up. So, and I'm going to go visit him too. So I get to go talk with Martin Sinkovich on September 26th. So
please get in the pair with him, please.
I don't know about the pair, maybe the double. We'll see.
Okay, so we're going to start wrapping up. Next week is our back to school edition. Woohoo! We're also going to start our fall series and talking about coaching toolboxes and safety checks and do some head racing previews. What's really great about these correspondents is now with Allison, we're representing Northwest, Florida, Southeast, Tennessee Southeast, and now Northeast with a Philly connection with Allison. So we're super excited to be able to cover, if anybody from the Southwest wants to come on the show or give us a tip or gadget about a great race in your region, definitely give us a shout out at our website on rowing.chat. You can also subscribe to notifications at that website. We're always looking for club news and gadgets. We love to focus on cool things that make rowing easier, more fun, make our masters faster, to borrow a phrase from Marlene Royal. We have lots of people who make this podcast possible. We talked about our sponsors earlier, Faster Masters, Or Inspired, and Rosenthorn Bras. And we want to give a shout out to our producer, Charlotte Pierce, who has her own company called Pierce Press. She said she's looking for manuscripts on topics like coaching. So if you have a manuscript idea, Charlotte's your gal for checking that out. She's our producer and director. Correspondent Mark Wilson, of course, with All American Rowing Camps. I'm hoping to hatch a rowing camp with Mark out here in the Pacific Northwest, especially for sweep, because I'm kind of a sweeper. So that's really fun. That camp out here. I'm Tara Morgan. I'm the founder and head coach of Seize the Oar Foundation. I'm also with Vashon Island Rowing Club, and I run a really fun Facebook page that gets a lot of traffic called Learn to Row. Super simple. We talk about best practices in terms of recruiting and retention and coaching of your Learn to Rows. And right now everybody's graduating their Learn to Rows into their master's program. So now is the time to really kind of hash that out. Like I said, our upcoming episodes, follow by subscribing. And I think
you did it, Tara.
Huh?
I think you did it. That was
think
awesome.
we did it. Hey, we've got one more mention with Rebecca Careau from Row Perfect USA. She does a book every year, which is kind of cool, about rowing tales. So she's looking for submissions, and we'll post that. As you may know or not know, after the show, we make a website that's got a really cool blog post with all these links and all these discounts for all these sponsors. And it's really, really informative. So if you're listening at home or you're going to watch this later, be sure to check out that show notes website, and you'll be able to see all these links that we've been talking about. So if we're just going through this way fast, this is a really fun way to stay connected to us and figure out how you can best tag in. And also, if you're going to the U.S. Rowing National Convention in December, look for us. We're hoping to be there broadcasting live.
Thanks, Tara. Yeah. Thanks, Mark. Ryan, you're the best.
Thank you, guys.
Okay.
Have a great day.
Take care.